Welcome to Sex Talk Radio, a podcast that explores sex, kink, and intimacy through candid conversations with sex workers, researchers, and voices shaping the conversations on sexuality. This episode is brought to you by Testy, a sexual health company I founded launching early 2026, which will revolutionize same-day walk-in STI testing. Head to testy.co to get on the waitlist and get a discount on your first panel.
The Long Island serial killer case, also known as the Gilgo Beach murders, is one of America's most notorious and haunting serial killer cases. It started in the early 90s, 1993, although some people arguably say it started in the early 80s, but we can get to that. Yeah, I know. We can get to that. But yeah, it started in the early 90s and stretched to 2010.
Shannon McGarvey is an investigative journalist and producer and the founder of Moon Pie Media, a boutique podcast company specializing in human-centered, mission-driven storytelling. She's the writer and producer of the podcast LISK, Long Island Serial Killer, and Yuba County 5, and has produced acclaimed collaborations with The Atlantic and Hauser and Wirth, including the award-winning audio series Edge of Reason. Her work has been featured in The New York Times, The New Yorker, and Vogue, and she appears in Peacock's Gilgo Beach Killer, House of Secrets. Welcome to Sex Talk Radio.
Hey, that sounds so important when you read that.
Well, I picked up on your vibe and wanted to talk to you from watching that documentary. I was like, because I've been wanting to kind of lean into some true crime cases with the podcast, but like in a very intentional way. And, you know, I think this story is super important and ties into sex work and some of the things that I'm very passionate about. And I've been following this case quite closely. But yeah, when I saw you on the podcast, I was like, I bet she'd be good to talk to.
Thanks for reaching out.
And not like judgmental and weird and shitty about
No.
sex workers in the case.
Yeah,
So.
that, from the very beginning, I was always struck by how people, mostly men, honestly, spoke about the victims of this case.
Yeah.
And how differently they spoke about, say, like other victims of other cases that weren't sex workers. So to me, the crux of the story was really a story about class and who matters when they go missing and who doesn't.
Yes. And as a total true crime junkie who's consumed a lot of various podcasts about many different cases, it's a theme I've noticed over the years of like this, there, especially when somebody goes missing, and I'm sure we'll get into this, the delay time, it's very different when they're assuming that the person is living like a high risk life. And, you know, whereas it's like, you know, some pretty young girl from high school goes missing. It's like the whole team is like searching for this person in like 24 hours. It's fucking crazy.
Yeah. And I also found that like when I first started researching this case, like all the way back in 2016, which feels like forever now.
A lot has happened.
It was only really other women who were like reporting.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, specifically one.
Okay.
A reporter named Jackie Gallucci, who's now at the New York Times.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, she's now at the New York Times, but was at the Long Island Press at the time.
Okay.
And she was really like the loudest voice, like talking about these women, and like it wasn't really anybody else. So I just I really identified with the victims and really saw this case as like a really a feminist case.
Totally.
That is super complicated and has lots of details.
We'll get into that.
I mean, not all the details, but and stretches for like decades, honestly.
Yes. So if you're new to true crime, I don't want to assume everyone binges true crime the way I do. If you're new, you may have heard of the accused killer, Rex Heuermann.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you say it, right?
Yeah.
Heuermann. because he was arrested like a year and a half ago or 2 years ago.
July of 2023.
Okay. And he was that big, scary looking dude that was arrested in Manhattan. Also, when I've told people that I'm going to be covering this, they often say, oh, the Gilgo thing, the Long Island serial killer, LISK. Like there's a lot of kind of terminology and phrasing around it.
Yeah.
All the same case.
Yep.
So do you want to go back a little bit and give us a little bit of a backstory here of how this all started?
Yeah. So, like I said before, it's super complicated. So I'm gonna
bear with us.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to distill it into sort of like
Yeah. I can also ask like clarifying questions.
Yeah.
As if I'm
totally
new to the case.
Sure. So I found that a lot of people who don't live in the New York City area refer to it as a Long Island serial killer case.
Okay.
And a lot of the people who do live like on Long Island or in the New York City area call it the Gilgo Beach murders because a lot of people, I guess, know where Gilgo Beach is.
Right. We're getting more specific.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so the Long Island serial killer case, also known as the Gilgo Beach murders, is one of America's most notorious and haunting serial killer cases. It started in the early 90s, 1993. Although some people arguably say it started in the early 80s, but we can get to that. Yeah, I know. We can get to that. But yeah, it started in the early 90s and stretched to 2010. And it involved...
Like that's the frame for when all the murders likely happened.
Yes, when all the murders likely happened. And it involved a string of missing women in or on Long Island on the South Shore of Long Island.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that they were from Long Island, but missing women in and around that area.
Okay.
But the case really started to get attention in 2010 when a 24-year-old woman named Shannon Gilbert went missing from the Oak Beach community, which is a community that's very close to the Gilgo Beach area. And it was when the authorities started looking for her that they discovered a set of like 11 remains along Ocean Parkway.
11.
And like if you're like most people and don't know where Ocean Parkway is, it's a highway that stretches along the South Shore of Long Island. So
pretty remote, right? Like where the bodies were found,
totally remote.
Like not houses there.
I mean, no houses. It's just like a stretch of highway with water on either side, basically.
But not far. How many miles from the alleged, or can we just call him the killer? I don't know. Like how many miles from his house? It's not far, right?
No. I mean, as the crow flies, not too far. Okay. But he was from Massapequa.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, he was from Massapequa. But the Gilgo Beach area is maybe like 15-20 minute drive. I don't want don't come for me. Actually, no, it takes. I mean, a lot of people. I mean, if you live on Long Island, there's like a lot of people who over the years have been like, it's not in Long Island, it's on Long Island. It's, Massapequa and like whatever. So, please don't come for me. But yeah, so it was when they were searching for Shannon Gilbert that they found a set of like 11 human remains. And these aren't like full bodies, not to get gross. But it's not full bodies. These are like parts.
Yeah, and from 11 different people.
From 11 different people, including one baby, which was always like super heartbreaking.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
But then it was when, when they started, like when they discovered these remains, that they started to identify some of these victims. And the first 4 that were identified was a group that would come to be known as the Gilgo 4.
Okay.
Which is probably like the most famous, probably the most famous victims of this case.
And were all 11 found pretty close to each other?
They were.
And so why were the 4 kind of seen as separate?
So, well, one is because they were all like, they weren't in pieces. They were their skeletons were like all together.
Okay.
And
so it felt very clear that those 4 were like probably from the same killer
yes.
initially.
Yes, they were all, and again, like I take no pleasure in these details like whatsoever. I mean,
Yeah.
some people get into true crime because they sort of like fetishize like some of this stuff. I take no pleasure in this whatsoever.
Sure.
But they were all found like bound with burlap.
Right.
They all were like one in like one piece, basically.
And was their timeline of their deaths closer?
Well, some of them.
Not necessarily.
So the Gilgo 4 were identified as Melissa Bartholomew, Maureen Brainerd Barnes, Megan Waterman, and Amber Lynn Costello. So Amber Lynn had gone missing just a few months prior.
Wow.
So she wasn't completely decomposed.
Okay.
Again, like I'm sorry, I keep saying this. I feel, I think of it like if I were talking about my friend, like my friend,
I understand,
or my sister, I wouldn't. Or hearing somebody talk about it like this, it's hard, and I just want to be sensitive to the victims.
I know. So. I've been really weary of even covering any true crime because I've been like, I like listening to true crime podcasts, and I also want to do it very respectfully. So I feel like it's a tedious line to toe.
I feel you.
But right there with you. So that means that these murders were happening up until 2010. And sorry to jump, probably going to jump around a little bit.
It's fine.
But is it assumed, or in your opinion, that there were no murders between 10 and 22 and when he was arrested?
Okay, so that's contested. Yeah, so basically, so I have to deal in facts because
we got a journalist.
Because he's only been indicted for
4 or 7?
7.
Okay.
Yeah. So for the Gilgo 4.
Okay.
And then for 3 more. And they that's Jessica Taylor, Valerie Mack, and Sandra Castillo. Sandra Castillo went her body was discovered in 1993. So that kind of like blew the lid off of like the timeline. Valerie Mack and Jessica Taylor were like in the early aughts. So for a while, they were kind of like operating under the belief of like, okay, this is like an aughts murder, right? So this is like from early aughts to like...
Does that mean 2000s?
Yes. Okay. All right. Yes. Turn of the century.
Okay.
But yes, from like 2000 to like 2010, right? But then through DNA, he was linked to Sandra Castillo in 1993, who, not to go down the rabbit hole,
please do.
But for all you sleuths out there, if you like want to go down this rabbit hole, I won't do it now. But like, she was originally suspected to be the victim of a different murderer, John Bittroff,
serial killer,
alleged murderer. Because the thing is that now, apparently so he was convicted of murdering 2 women in 1992.
Okay.
They were called the Left Shoe murders.
How about her? I've heard of his name, but I don't know if I've heard about the case.
Well,
I thought he'd killed more people. I thought
no, there was only 2 that he's convicted of. He's in jail right now. But apparently there is there's some question about his like guilt because I think, and I don't have like the indictment in front of me, but through DNA evidence, I think he's making an appeal on at least one of those women that he was convicted of murdering. And apparently there's like not enough, like there wasn't enough to convict him.
Okay.
But before we had a suspect in this case, before we had Rex Heuermann, we had a former, like, I want to say it was like a Suffolk County prosecutor who had come out and said, John Bittroff is probably the Long Island serial killer. So people,
I feel like I've heard of that.
Yeah. So people for years and years, sorry about that. I just kicked her foot. But people for years and years were kind of throwing around his name as like he might be the Long Island serial killer. And now, since we have a suspect,
what if
he's been put back into John Bittroff has been put back into the spotlight because people are like, wait a minute, like what if he's innocent.
Well, I definitely want to go down
Yeah.
that rabbit hole after this of his cases because I'm curious.
And his case also involves sex workers as well. So the two women that he's convicted of
And in a
killing.
similar area?
Yep.
Huh. What
Yeah.
if he was just wrong place, wrong time? I don't know.
But Sandra Castilla had been originally sort of pinned to him
Because of the timeline,
because of the timeline, because of the area, some details of the case.
Yeah.
But it
Interesting.
wasn't. Yeah.
Okay, so going back to Shannon Gilbert. So did she go missing in 2010?
She did. Yeah.
Okay.
May of 2010. It was May 1st of 2010.
And that kicked off the investigation because it was so fresh. Oh, well, she wasn't tied to the other bodies because her investigation is what led to them being discovered.
Yeah.
I guess the question is, so she was a sex worker, right?
She was, yeah.
But was it her family that was extremely vocal and like in press and like they were basically like, we're not going to not let you cover this missing person.
Yeah, they were the loudest, probably the most annoying to Suffolk County. It was Mary Gilbert. It was actually her mom. Yeah. And that's what the Netflix,
yes.
Lost Girls was about, or
all the moms that band together and fought for this.
Yeah, Mary Gilbert was at the forefront of that. So it was Shannon Gilbert's disappearance. Whereas she hasn't been linked to the Long Island serial killer case, but it was her her disappearance that led to the discovery
of the bodies.
Of the bodies, yeah.
I feel like people do very much associate with her so she's not, and I don't know if you're comfortable getting into your opinions on this, but like you don't think that she's necessarily okay.
I don't. But
she's forever linked to the whole.
She is forever. Yeah. I get chills, honestly. Like I'm talking about her and I'm like, oh my God, why am I getting like the woo-woo chills right now? But I've felt very connected to the Shannon Gilbert case, not just because my name is Shannon. But yeah, I've spent a lot of time researching her case, her disappearance. I won't go on the record like saying that I know how she died.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I have ideas about who may have
Was her body found?
Her body was found. I think it was a year to, this is the crazy part. It was a year to the day when they discovered the Gilgo 4. Yeah. I'm pretty sure about that. So yeah, she
was discovered somewhere else and under different circumstances.
She was discovered in a marshy area in the Oak Beach community, not too far from where she had gone missing.
Yeah, and could you speak a little bit to that night, because that seems to be something that's always comes up in it, because she was going to see a client as a sex worker, and there's some kind of weird characters involved.
Lots of weird characters
in this whole fucking thing.
I know. It's like, what? I mean, honestly, when I first started researching this case, I was like, is everyone on Long Island this weird? Like, why?
Sorry if you're from Long Island.
No, I know.
Actually, really quick, before we get into this, because I think it's a cool story, can you talk about how you say this case found you? Because I assume that you're just like a true crime junkie or whatever, but like I think it's a special story.
Yeah. So it was in 2016, and I was going through some personal stuff. I had just broken up with the father of my children. I was a single mom, and facing some pretty dire circumstances. I needed a job. I had like a fresh newborn baby and a 15-month-old. I've actually never talked about this publicly. But yeah, it was I was going through a really hard time. It was in the middle of Me Too. So I felt especially scorned. And I was like, I was on I would say I was on maternity leave, but I was a freelancer. So I'm like, there was no maternity leave. I was like burning through my savings.
Not self-employed.
And my future was uncertain.
Yeah.
And then I got a phone call that was like, hey, do you want to help make this documentary? And it's about the Long Island serial killer. And it was pitched to me as a story about crooked cops, right?
Which we will get into.
Yeah.
Plenty of that.
Which is funny to me now, because to me, like as a storyteller, I'm like, that's like a sea story, right? Like that's not
what this is
that
about.
is not what the story is about at all.
Yeah.
But it's important to the story,
Right.
you know, but they are not the main characters. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, it was that gig that kind of saved me. And I just dove way deep into this case, like way deeper than I ever expected. And you know, that documentary never actually got made. We compiled hours and hours of footage interviewing family members of the victims, tried to interview law enforcement, but they wouldn't speak to us. Suffolk County, actually. And then, and then we tried to sell it, or the production company I was working with at the time tried to sell it to some networks. And guess what? Nobody was interested because they were like, yeah, nobody cares about
the crooked cop story.
Yeah, or the missing sex workers. Come to me when you have a suspect, right? And we're not.
And you probably did not anticipate that you would, maybe in your lifetime, like
never. And that's the thing. Like,
it felt unsolvable, probably.
And I never thought that when you work on a cold case and you're researching these facts, you get so deep and like you can't fixate on like who did it because you'll drive yourself crazy. So I had to just focus on the victims, honestly, and like, okay, so my job is not law enforcement. I'm not going to solve this case, but what I am going to do is I'm going to tell a story and shine a light on the injustices of this story, and hopefully people will listen. But that didn't actually happen until you know we didn't turn that unsellable documentary into anything until I guess it was like December-ish 2019.
Yeah.
When that same production company was like, hey, we have all this footage. Why don't we do something with it? And then somebody had the idea to turn it into a podcast, which we did. Yeah. And it was based loosely off of Robert Kolker's book, Lost Girls.
Okay.
The podcast was LISK, Long Island Serial Killer. And so that was like, we started in 2016. The podcast started in 2019. Just to be clear, I wasn't working on this documentary for like 3 years straight. I went and I did other things like an alien, like alien shows and like, you know, other stuff like that.
We were meant to meet for many reasons.
I was a TV producer, but then I came back to Long Island Serial Killer, and that's sort of the origin story of LISK, Long Island Serial Killer podcast, and it kind of took off. I mean, in the beginning, nobody listened. Because again, it was like nobody really.
Cold cases are hard.
Yeah,
to consume. It feels
totally
unknown,
and nobody really cared. But I think what drew people to the Long Island Serial Killer podcast or the LISK podcast was the victim-centered approach that we took, because there was that ethos of like, look, we ain't gonna solve this case, right?
Yeah.
I think I always thought it was solvable.
Yeah.
And I always thought it was like the failings of law enforcement that like kept it unsolvable, and like
the neglect of the sex worker.
Exactly.
Victims.
But I just I think that people really identified with like knowing these women and like the care and the time that
their families worked hard.
Oh my God. Again, chills. I always say this. I'm like, look, you know, through the arbitrary circumstances of life, they found themselves in certain situations, you know, working in certain jobs. Maybe some of them wanted to, maybe some of them didn't want to.
Yeah.
But like they were no different than you and I, or, you know, anybody. They were people and they had hopes and dreams, and they never, you know, anticipated that they would, you know, end up a part of a serial killer story, you know, and they didn't deserve to be. You know, they were, I think about one of the things we did on the podcast was like we talked a lot about like there's one victim in particular, Megan Waterman.
Mm-hmm.
We talked a lot about her childhood. We talked to like a
Mm.
social worker that she worked with as a kid, and like I think we spoke to her mom, and I just kept thinking about like my own daughter, and and you think like these were like people that were like little girls once, and
Yeah.
some of them even had children. Some of these victims had children, and like you just never, no little girl is like, I'm going to grow up and be murdered, like nobody, I mean, it sounds like I'm trivializing it,
Right.
but it's like, it's just so fucking sad. Like, it's just so sad.
As someone that consumes a lot of true crime, something that I struggle with is, when their stories aren't told, as well as how quickly, what stresses me out is how quickly the stories are kind of glamorized. So like I've been following like the Idaho 4 very quickly or very closely, and like it's so quick, the news cycle of like, imagine your child was harmed and murdered, and literally the next morning it's hooker murdered. Like, I mean, it's just like, I think what's crazy is that there's no type of like, gag order's not the right word, but like, can we give them like a week to fucking grieve and process? Like, the news cycle is instantaneous, and the news cycle loves this kind of stuff.
And very callous. Like, it's not, I feel like as a society, we've become very like desensitized to the humanity of these cases, and like that's what really bums me out about true crime. Like I've done 2 true crime podcasts, and it's not my bag like necessarily. Like I love telling human-centered stories, right?
Yeah.
And I love telling stories about like underrepresented populations, or like people who sort of exist on the fringe. And some of those stories happen to be, true crime cases. But I think part of what bums me out about true crime is just that, how dehumanizing it is, and how like fetishized, the like murder can be. Like there's
and the obsession around the killer too.
Yes.
Like I've learned more about Brian Kohlberger than I ever fucking wanted to.
Oh girl, we could talk.
Like Jesus
that guy,
Christ.
I was really interested. Like when that case, not to detour, but the Idaho case is like,
I consume a lot of content around it, and I keep learning more about him.
Yeah, and that is something that happens frequently. I mean, people really obsess and look, like it's interesting.
Yeah.
Like the human heart of darkness is like super interesting, right? And I understand the draw, because it's like, oh my God, how could this monster be living among us?
Right. Right.
How could somebody commit something like this?
Yeah.
Right. Like what a sick guy. Right. I get that. But like, there's a very different narrative that we could be focusing on.
Yeah.
And that's always what I kind of say about the LISK case. Like I follow the developments with Rex Heuermann, who is sitting in jail somewhere on Long Island right now, awaiting trial, just to kind of put a pin in that, storyline.
Good.
But yeah, I don't really give a fuck about him. Right. Like I don't care to like really like obsess on, like there are some people like who are like, oh, what was his childhood like? And like, how did he become who he is? And I understand that there's an audience for that, and people are like really interested in like making of a murderer. Right. But I feel like it's, and not to be sanctimonious, I just feel like it's disrespectful to the victims. And I just
the whole childhood storytelling thing brings an element of justification.
Yeah.
Of like, well, he was fucked up, he was assaulted, or whatever. Like I hear that a lot in true crime of like an episode will start off with this like childhood story and this kind of empathy building, and it's like, okay, so let's go back to Shannon Gilbert and the kicking off of this case. Could you chat a little bit about the night she went missing?
You did ask about that, and we totally.
I have raging ADHD. We're gonna go a lot of places.
You and me both, girl.
We're going to go a lot of places. But we're doing great.
Yeah. So yeah, Shannon Gilbert was an interesting person. So she was very much so like a what's the term? Like a sole proprietor, you know?
Love that. Independent lady.
Yeah, she really was.
Yeah.
And and she would, make her own bookings.
Mhm.
I remember her boyfriend, Alex Diaz, telling me that she was like an early adopter of like the iPhone, like a, like really early iPhone, like when they were
I
still,
remember
like,
when it came out.
huge and
Yes.
heavy. But she would like book her dates on like her cell phone, which now seems like big deal.
Right, of course.
But at the time, like people were still using flip phones.
Yeah.
Right. So like it was really she was just sort of like ahead of her time, I guess. And yeah, I don't think, with Shannon Gilbert, I don't think sex work was like the end game for her. It was just sort of like a means to an end. It was a way to make money quickly to facilitate her dreams. She was a poet. Yeah, she we actually had access to her 2 copies of her journal, like her diary.
Wow.
She was an obsessive note taker. So she was like very organized. She was very much so like a businesswoman, right?
Yeah.
And like very organized, and she would write poetry, and she was a singer, and she had moved to New York City like with
Chase the dream.
Yeah, chase the dream, exactly. And this was just, a way to make like fast, easy money. And so she had hired a driver named Michael Pack. And it was late on the night of like April 30th, 31st. I can't remember how many days there. It was the last day in April. And she took a call out on Long Island. And she was in Midtown Manhattan. Like she had just finished like a horror movie, like at a theater in Midtown Manhattan. Yeah, with her boyfriend.
God.
It was Freddy versus Jason. I know. I was like, girl, why? But she had just finished this movie, got a call, and was like, oh shit. Like I'm gonna get like, it was like way above what I guess she would have normally made. So she contacts Michael Pack. They drive out to Oak Beach, just like an hour from Midtown Manhattan.
Yeah.
In the middle of nowhere. I mean, like this is a remote area on the South Shore of Long Island.
And does a driver somewhat act as security? The driver is supposed to kind of, I would think.
Yeah, a lot of people call him her pimp, which is like so gross. First of all, it's like gross. And then second
or like
of all,
sometimes a girl can make her own money.
Yeah, exactly. It was like, that's why I'm always like very careful. I'm like, he was working for her, right? Like, she was the boss.
Right.
Okay. She was the boss. But he was security. And then he was just like, again, like a means to an end. Like, I need somebody to drive me out here. I need an extra person, an extra set of eyes.
Yeah.
And then I also need, when, like, if I need you to go and get something for me, whatever. So, so he drives her out to her date, to a man named Joseph Brewer's house.
The client that hired
The client,
her. Okay.
And she's there, and I don't want to get like too in the weeds, but she's there for a few hours. They leave, they come back. And some people speculate that they leave to go. I think she said that they went to go get like playing cards and like some lube. But some people speculate that, it was like they went to get drugs and, to just keep the party going, basically. And at some point, she starts, having some sort of meltdown over. And this is where I want to be like very careful not to inject like my assessment on like the call, because there's a 911 call that kind of tracks all of this, but she goes into some sort of panic state for some reason or another. Some people speculate that it was like a drug-induced psychosis because she had just seen this Freddy versus Jason movie. She's in the middle of nowhere and she starts having like, and then like some people say like she had been up for a couple of days. Which she had been, because Michael Pack had taken her to a party, like to a date the night before.
Yeah.
So at any rate,
she calls 911.
She calls 911 because she believes she's in danger. And I know, it's really sad. And
she's running on the call, right? She leaves the house.
At some point she leaves the house.
Yeah.
And she runs into the darkness of this community. Now there's lots of houses like in this beach community. Joseph Brewer's house is at the end of this long street. Okay. So like if you can kind of imagine, like you come into this community and it's kind of like I don't know, like there's a gated part in the beginning, like in the front, there's like a front gate, and then like you down to the right is like a long street, and then there's like you can go forward, and then there's another long street down to the left. So what she does is Joseph Brewer Street is down to the right at the very end. She runs down that street into the darkness. It's like on the beach.
Yeah.
There's marsh.
Yeah.
And disappears. Now, Michael Pack looks for her for a little bit. He knows that she was on the call with, or she knows that she was on the phone with the police.
How does he know that?
Because so Joseph Brewer, the client, had come out and was like, get your girl, right? Like, she's freaking out, like, get your girl.
Yeah.
So, but on the call, Shannon is saying, like, they're trying to murder me.
Right.
They're, I'm in danger.
And, like, they're plural?
Yeah. And there was only supposed to be one person there. Yeah. And then you can hear Michael Pack in the background, like, on the call.
Yeah.
And, so there's a lot of like questions.
That's a whole other case.
Yeah, it's a whole other case. But Michael Pack is trying to get her in the vehicle. Like, let's go. Like, let's get out. And she just won't. And she runs away from him.
So but she interacts with him on her way out.
She interacts, but like barely, right? Yeah. And she just takes off like into the darkness. And Michael Pack gets in his car and is following her like as she's running. And she goes house to house, like down the street, back toward the entrance. And she, and on the call, you could hear her knocking on these houses. It's like 5 o'clock in the morning. Which is
so bizarre, even if there's like drug psychosis happening, that feels safer than getting in the car with your driver and leaving. It's
I think she thought, and that's what
maybe she didn't think he was safe, the driver.
Well, that's the thing. That's what a lot of people have speculated about is like maybe, why didn't she feel safe getting in the car with Michael? And like, and Joseph Brewer was like, get her out of here. Like, you can hear him on the call being like, she needs to leave. Like, go. But yeah.
And now there is nothing that ties Michael Brewer to Rex.
Or Joseph Brewer.
Joseph Brewer to Heuermann. No. Like, okay, that's been found. Okay, no, just to clarify.
There's nothing that really, and I'm sure, like, again, don't come for me because there's a whole, like, before we had a suspect, like, in the absence of answers.
I think he was targeted a lot, right? Like,
people want to fill.
I kind of feel bad for that guy if he was truly just a client.
People want to fill, like, question marks, like, they want to fill that with, like, answers, right? So there's a lot, before there was a suspect, there was a lot of conspiracy theories in this case. And that's why I'm like, we got to deal in facts. But yeah, as far as I'm concerned, he was just a client.
Right. And she was just not just a sex worker.
But she was
unrelated to the LISK.
Exactly. She was there to party, right? Yep. And then she was going to leave.
Yeah.
And yeah, she went missing.
Her family blew this shit up.
Yeah. So like, just to kind of finish her saga, she like goes down the street. She ends up the third house she knocks on is the house of a man named Gus Coletti. Okay. This like octogenarian who would like up at like 5 o'clock in the morning to go to some like car show. Okay. Right. Okay. He answers the door and you can hear him like on like on the 911 call.
Yes.
And he's like, do you need help? Like, who are you? Like, I'm going to call the police. And when he says that, and again, I'm like, this is very like high level.
Yeah.
She takes off. And when he calls the police, he tells them that she was like a young, like 14 years old or something like that. And granted, she was very small and like young looking. But another interesting point about Shannon Gilbert is when she was on that phone call, she didn't know where she was, right? Because she's in the middle of nowhere. Yeah. Right. And she said she was like close to Jones Beach, which is a different jurisdiction. It was like state police instead of like local police. So I think it was actually Gus Coletti's phone call that brought local police in. And it was at that point when like that's sort of like at the end of the street, like toward the entrance that I was talking about earlier, when Michael Pack was like, gotta go, bye, you know, and left her there because she wouldn't get in the car. Michael Pack's like, I'm engaged in illegal activity. Right. Now you tell me that police are coming. I knew she was on a 911 call. Now we have this old man who's called the police. I got to get out of here. Like he was not about to be arrested that night. Right. So he takes off and leaves her there. Right. He leaves her in Oak Beach in the middle of nowhere.
Like he leaves his home. Or
no, Michael Pack leaves Shannon Gilbert in Oak Beach. And she, mind you, she's from Jersey City. Like she lives in Jersey City. Yeah. They came there together. He leaves alone.
Oh, sorry. I'm getting the names confused. I'm following now. Michael Pack.
This is like.
Okay. Yeah. This is where, sorry if you're listening. Michael Pack is the driver. Yeah. Not the client. Yes, Michael Pack, her driver, fucking left her.
Yes.
Okay. I got
left her. Yes. And.
That's insane.
And then, so the next day when she doesn't come home, her boyfriend, who knows Michael Pack, the driver, her boyfriend's name is Alex Diaz. You don't have to remember these names. So I'll just call him the boyfriend. But the boyfriend calls the driver and says, where is she? She didn't come home last night. And he was like, oh, well, I assumed she would find her own way home, or she told me she would find her own way home. She's I don't know. She didn't come home with me. So Alex Diaz, her boyfriend, goes out to Oak Beach to the client's house, whose information he had gotten from Michael Pack. And he's like, knock, knock. Where's my girlfriend? Yeah. And Joseph Brewer's like, that's the client. And Joseph Brewer's like, I don't know. She ran out. She freaked out last night. And that was the last time I saw her. And he was like, well, you're coming with me down to the precinct.
Fuck yeah.
And we're going to tell this to the cops. Now, I don't want to like paint Alex Diaz out as like this, hero. Yeah. Cause he had also Shannon had a plate in her jaw from where he had like broken her jaw, all right, which helped identify her later. But he was one of the early advocates of like, no, we need to figure this out.
Right. So regardless of what activities you were all engaging in.
So they go down there together. Yeah. And they're basically like, I don't want to say it, like, they're just like laughed out. It's like, it's like, look, she'll turn up.
And was this during the James Burke era?
This was right before that.
Okay.
So it was like, she'll turn up. And
give it, they always do. Yeah. Give it a couple days.
Oh, she was a working girl.
She'll come around.
They always disappear. Like that type of thing where it's like, okay. Yeah. So yeah, they, and then they were also like, she's also from Jersey City. So
she probably
like file a missing persons report in Jersey City. Gotcha. Don't file it here.
Gotcha.
Even though she went missing there. Yeah. So they come back. I want to say Alex comes back with Michael Pack again. And they kind of like walk through like what happened, and they start talking to people in the community, and somebody comes forward like in the community, and they say, oh yeah, let me take your number down. It's a man named Peter Hackett. And it was like, let me take your number down. And if I see her, if anything turns up, I'll let you know. And then they give Peter Hackett like her mother's number as well, Mary Gilbert's number. Well, not to confuse people, but Peter Hackett ends up calling Mary Gilbert and says, hey, I saw your daughter, that night. And I run a home for wayward girls.
Heard about this fucking guy.
Yeah. I run
Why
a home.
are there so many weirdos? Like, this story isn't even the serial killer.
Yeah.
Fuck.
And it was like, I run a home for wayward girls. And I
Red flag.
Yeah.
Immediate.
I was like, what the fuck is a wayward girl? But okay. I run a home for wayward girls, and I encountered your daughter. I helped her that night. But then she left and I never saw her again. Okay, cool.
Does he live on that street?
He
So
lives.
she may have actually knocked on?
No,
Okay.
he doesn't live on Joseph Brewer Street.
So she probably never met this fucking guy?
No.
Oh, did
This
he?
is when it gets crazy. And so like I said, the reason why I sort of like gave you the layout of the street or the neighborhood is like, so when you go to the right at the entrance, that's Joseph Brewer Street. When you go like straight and to the left, that's Peter Hackett Street, right?
Okay.
And so we think that Shannon might have run down that sort of dog leg to Peter Hackett Street, knocking on doors, because there are other reports from other residents in the area calling the police saying there's somebody knocking on my door.
Yeah.
That's down that area.
Okay.
Now, again, not to go down the rabbit hole, but there was a sworn deposition given by a man named Bruce Anderson, who is a resident in that Oak Beach community, that says that Peter Hackett told him that he encountered Shannon that night and gave her medicine to calm her down. Right? Because she was hysterical. Yes. Now, Peter Hackett.
What the fuck?
Yeah. And that's that busybody who ran a home for wayward girls, quote unquote, ran a home for wayward girls. He didn't. But he was a former doctor and lived on Oak Beach.
This.
Yeah, lived on Oak Beach. He had he was known, or people have said that he was known as a sort of busybody.
Was his home weird? I feel like I've seen footage of like somebody in their home that lived on that street.
Well, get this. So his home backs up to the marsh that she was found in. So I don't know. I mean,
but she was not found to have died from homicide, or was she found to have died from like cold?
when her remains were discovered, there were we're gonna get this is like,
I know we only have 40 minutes left. We have to get back to Gilgo.
This is like crazy. This is another. I'm telling you, this is another episode.
Yeah, I want to do other episodes with you.
But when her remains were found, two medical examiners, surveyed her bones. Right. One said, like, one death certificate said the cause of death was, quote unquote, death by misadventure, which, again, like
those misadventurous sex workers.
Yeah, like what the fuck is like,
right?
Like
that probably just means like like.
I mean, half of this, I'm like, are we living in like 1932 or something?
Yeah.
Wayward girls, death by misadventure. Okay.
But then we'll chalk that up to like natural causes.
Yeah, something
shit
like
went down.
She went,
tripped, fell.
Yeah.
Cold.
So basically, it was her own fault.
Okay.
And then the second medical examiner, which was a man named Michael Baden. He's a famous medical examiner.
Okay.
He did that HBO show Autopsy. He's also Jeffrey Epstein's medical examiner.
Oh God.
Yeah. But he actually
reliable source.
Yeah. I mean, he's kind of like a medical examiner for hire. But I mean, reputable. But people often go to him.
But like, let's make sure it's a homicide.
Yeah. And but
make sure he hung himself.
Yeah. Well, get this. So he found that her hyoid bone, was broken. And the hyoid is like this right
is an
here.
important true crime. If
Yes.
it's true crime, you'll know about it.
Yes. And the hyoid bone is very hard to break, and it is typically found in strangulation cases.
Yep.
So we talked to forensic anthropologists about this on the podcast.
Yeah.
And they said, we asked them, like, is it possible that, like, because her remains were out in the elements, like, is it possible that, like, maybe, like, animal activity could have, like...
No, I don't think that thing breaks unless it's strangulation.
Exactly.
And it was broken.
And
that was confirmed by more than just one medical examiner, or no? That was just...
No, there was only 2 reports.
Gotcha.
So, like, one was through Suffolk County, and then one was Michael Baden, so
now,
the medical examiner.
The Gilgo Beach murders, was that a common theme in theirs? It was not, right? The hyoid bone or medical strangulation, or not medical, manual strangulation.
Yeah, manual strangulation. I mean,
not really, right?
No, the hyoid bone is like, when I think of this case and the hyoid bone, I think of Shannon Gilbert.
Okay,
but they were like, the Gilgo 4 were bound.
Right, they're very specific.
Yeah.
Now, is Shannon Gilbert's family? Do they push for continued investigation into this being a murder?
I mean,
versus
they just wanted... I mean, Mary Gilbert at the time, they were like, this is suspicious. Like,
right. They wanted to find their daughter.
Yeah,
at the time.
like, where is she?
Yeah.
What happened to her? And apparently, this is also, I mean, like, again, we're getting, like, into the weeds on Shannon Gilbert, but Mary Gilbert allegedly said that when they found, because they found some of Shannon's personal belongings before they actually found her body.
Okay.
And she said that when they found her pocketbook, there was a cell phone. Like, she had, like, several cell phones.
Yeah.
There was a cell phone in her pocketbook that actually turned on. Like, it had been not in the elements for, like...
Oh.
Yeah, like, years. Like, over a year.
Oh, she wasn't found a month after she went missing?
No. She was found. She went missing in May 2010, and she was found in the winter of 2011. Yeah.
Okay, I was seeing it as like only a month went
So
by.
it's like, okay, wow, a year and a half has passed. How is her cell phone still turning on if it has been out in the elements?
No. Okay.
I mean, but that's contested. But that, again, kind of, like, there was some question around, okay, did she, was her body stored somewhere? There was like and again, we're edging into like conspiracy theory right here. None of this is proven, but there were some questions around, like, oh, there was a empty house at the end of the block that a certain person might have had access to. Yeah. And, like, is it possible?
I'm going to go into this.
Is it possible that that she could have been
kept alive?
Yeah, or not kept alive, but like stored there.
Sure.
But yeah, it was through her. I keep hitting this fucking microphone. It was through her disappearance and Mary Gilbert's, like.
So some of the other moms, I remember, was it Gone Girls? There was like a group of moms that became friends.
Yes. So it was Mary Gilbert, Shannon Gilbert's mom. It was Lorraine Ela, who is both Mary Gilbert and Lorraine Ela are passed away now. But Lorraine Ela was Megan Waterman's mom.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was Lynn Bartholomew, who was Melissa Bartholomew's mom. And then there was Missy Can, who was Maureen Brainerd Barnes' sister. And then who am I missing? And then Kim, I can't remember her last name, who was Amber's sister.
Okay. Sister.
And so there were all, like, they all sort of like banded together.
They banded together before the bodies were found.
Yeah. Okay. And it was really just, wait, did they? No, they didn't. That wasn't. I agreed with you before. Before I actually thought about the actual question.
Sure.
No, because they didn't know.
They were all
associated
together.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
They banded together after the Gilgo 4 were discovered
to get more attention on the case.
Yeah, because Shannon was the only one that was still missing. So after they found so it was the search, just to back it up.
Yeah.
The search for Shannon led to the discovery of 11 remains. And the first 4 of those victims that were identified were the Gilgo 4. And they were Melissa Bartholomew, Maureen Brainerd Barnes, Amber Lynn Costello, and Megan Waterman. It was after they had been identified that their family members came forward, and, there still wasn't any sign of Shannon Gilbert. So you have Mary Gilbert over here banging a drum, being like, where's my daughter, right?
Yeah.
And then you have the families of the Gilgo 4.
Because the other of the 11 had not been identified?
They were all unidentified.
Wow. Okay,
they were
that makes
all
sense.
unidentified, and they were linked to, with the exception of Jessica Taylor, because here we go. This is when it gets, so the Gilgo 4 were the only ones that were found like complete, right? Like their bodies were intact.
And all in certain, like
their skeletal remains were pretty much so intact. They were all found with burlap, and they were all sort of like.
So like, hey, the same person clearly did.
Yes. They were all like small in stature.
Yeah.
They were all the same age.
Which is so fucked up because because Heuermann is fucking huge.
An ogre.
Yes.
Like huge.
Yes.
Like I'm
6'4".
Girl, I'm 6 feet tall. He's like,
yeah, he's nasty.
Yeah, he's huge, like pushing 7 feet. And
like, we're not picking on people our own size. We're picking on people that we know.
Basically the size of children. Like, Melissa Bartholomew was 4'10".
Oh,
I know, she was really small. So they never had a chance. And but yeah, so the other victims were pretty much so unidentified up until the present. There's one victim that was found among those remains that remains unidentified. That's Asian Doe. But everyone else has since been identified.
Got it.
But yeah, there were like bits and pieces of people. Some that were like,
and in a very close proximity.
In very close
proximity. We're talking about like
a mile.
A mile?
All within a mile of each other.
Okay.
Yeah, like
I was wondering if it was like the murderer was like bringing them to the exact same place. Like, this is my burial site.
The Gilgo 4 were, but I mean,
and the Gilgo 4 were killed in similar-ish years. Like 3 of them.
Maureen Brainerd Barnes was 2007.
Yeah.
And then it was
2009.
And then it was Melissa Bartholomew in 2009. And then it was Megan Waterman in June 2010.
Yep.
And then it was Amber Costello in September.
Those are really close. So I'm looking at those right now because I do think that's an interesting part of the story when I like try to understand, not try to understand, but just like think about the psychology of him, the murderer. It's like, if he did this first one, let's just supposedly say in 1993, like he was just really active between 2007 and 2010.
Yeah.
And it's like.
Yeah. And it all centered around when his wife and kids were out of town. So you'll see that it's like with the Gilgo 4, it was all around like holidays. Like, when people would be traveling.
Yeah, like literally these, like all of them happened when his like wife and kids were out of town. It was like very specifically planned. There's some question about like, okay, so was this like, while the wife's away, the mice will play, right? Or was he, did he just lead like a relatively normal life? He kind of did. Like, he's on that weird documentary.
Yeah, I mean,
there's footage of him, and he's just like boring, dorky.
We're actually really close to his like office.
Oh,
yeah, right now, like his office. Yeah,
we're in
this
Midtown.
area, like, where he was apprehended.
Yep.
But he was just like, he just worked as an architect in like Midtown Manhattan, and he's just like, he would, commute to Long Island.
I have something to show you after we stop recording, or maybe we will continue to record. I came across a TikTok of a woman that was sitting across from him.
I saw that.
Did you see that?
I saw that.
And I commented on it because what I did is I ran what was on his phone through ChatGPT a few times.
What was it?
I'm such an investigator.
Yeah, you are.
And I'll have to pull up what ChatGPT said, but it mentioned like missing or like body or like he was searching his cases on the train, and he was drinking a beer, and the woman that was filming him on the train was typing. It was a Snapchat, and it was, this guy's fucking creepy. Why is he sitting next to me when there's all these open seats?
Ew.
Like, there's a whole lot happening in that 10 seconds.
Ew. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nuts. Moral of the story, trust your gut. Like, if you ever encounter somebody where you're like, ew, no.
Yeah. I hate that about being a woman, when you're like, why are you sitting next to me?
Oh my God.
Go sit. Other seats.
That's something I think, we could talk a lot about, just the shit that women have to put up with that like nobody else, that is ingrained in you from the time you were like little, like don't walk alone at night, like trust your instincts, like don't. But yeah, he's gross. And in the I want to say like in the original, the first bail application that outlined the original charges, because he was only charged with 3 of the 4, Gilgo 4 at first.
Okay.
The 4th one, Maureen, came later. But in the original bail application, when it was announced that he was the suspect, there were his searches, like his online searches were like outlined in there, and he definitely like Googled himself. He was definitely searching for himself on the internet. He was listening to podcasts about himself. He was watching.
Oh God, he's listened to yours, I bet.
That was one of the things. Like,
that'll keep you up at night.
That doesn't like it. That's not explicitly said in there, but like when his name was announced, I can't tell you how many text emails like I received. That was like, he listened to that podcast.
He probably wanted to see if he was mentioned anywhere.
And that was really creepy. And then it kind of like it makes you think like, how many other sickos are out there like just consuming like you never know who's listening to you. You never know what. And it was like he was a hunter. So he loved
him and his Republican friends. Yeah.
I wonder who he voted for. But yeah, he
had a bunch of guns.
Right? Like 93.
Yes.
And
were all of them legal?
No.
Okay.
No. And
were any of the victims shot?
No.
Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah. At least not that I know of. I mean,
I
again,
so.
Yeah, like I believe it was like torture, strangulation. But yeah, he also had like a dungeon in his like house in Massapequa.
I find it odd that his wife claims to have never known existed.
Well, no, that was like his man cave to her. Like but
like she never stepped foot
Asa,
or he transformed it when she left.
So his wife's name is Asa, and
she seems a little unwell.
Well, she is she's an interesting character as well. Like, I don't know if it's willful ignorance, or I think it's just I think she had a lot of issues herself.
Like, I shouldn't say unwell in like a derogatory way. I just mean like she seems maybe mentally ill.
Well, she's
something.
You're like, no offense.
Well, no, I mean that in a more compassionate way. Like something seems off.
Like you're right. I mean, I don't know. You're right.
Or maybe there was abuse.
Well,
she seems.
Some people think that some people have suggested like, oh, she was in on it because her DNA was found on her DNA and and their daughter's DNA was found on some of the victims, which is how they were linked to him. Some people very early on were like, they did it too. I'm like,
family murder.
Like, yeah, I'm like his daughter was like 14 at the time. Like, what are you? Yeah, like let's not. I mean,
a lot of conspiracies.
Yeah, there are. Okay, so like, yes, there are personal problems in that marital relationship.
For sure.
Like things that, you have to ask, like, how did you not know? Or like, why, like, how could you be so blind to this? But it's not outside the realm of possibilities. I mean, like, people are in. First of all, marriage is hard. And I'm not saying like, I'm like, oh, being married to a serial killer is hard. But I'm just saying marriage is hard.
Yeah.
And it's not, to me, outside the realm of possibility that like when you're married for 20 some odd years or however long they were married, that you're just kind of like living with this person, and they
Yes.
do their thing, you do your thing, and you kind of become like blind to. I mean, it also says something about herself, like why would you? I think that if you're the type of person who maybe doesn't examine your life very closely, who doesn't have much self-awareness, who never really takes the time like to be like to look at things or think maybe more deeply about your situation, I think you can. It's not surprising to me that
Yeah.
she's like doesn't know what he's doing and
Right.
just believes, it's just this man cave. Or like we're not allowed, like this is the room we're not allowed to go in,
Right,
or like
right,
he'd
right,
get
right.
mad if we went in here. But I mean, look, like she to me, I think that the Gilgo Beach murders stock that I am a part of goes into gives a really good profile on like Asa and her
Totally.
family. And highly recommend watching that if you're like asking
Yes.
yourself, like, how could she not have known? I don't know,
Right.
man.
No,
Like,
that's a common thing with serial
oh yeah.
killers. I mean, it's very split. Um, so we've covered a lot of the beginning and then
Mhm.
the recent. So what happened between 2010 2025?
A lot of nothing.
Okay. Yep. Let's talk
Yeah.
about that
So
and the police chief, if that was
yeah.
his right title. And
Well, so I would say this, like the Gilgo Four, all of them were reported missing by friends and family members, right?
yeah.
So Maureen had 2 children.
Oh,
Girl,
yeah.
that like breaks my heart.
Yeah.
She had 2 children who she was supporting, doing this work,
Yeah.
right? Like I think, if you talk to some of the people who knew her, she enjoyed this work, right? Like
Yeah.
no one was coercing her, unlike Melissa Bartholomew, who was coerced.
Okay.
Um, and Megan Waterman as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Coerced meaning had a pimp or
yeah, had like
pressure boyfriend.
pressure,
Okay.
were trafficked.
Yeah.
Like Megan Waterman was trafficked from Portland, Maine.
Whoa.
Yeah, it was like on Memorial Day weekend. Like he brought her to Hop Hog in Long Island, and they were
Like a
working.
random dude or
No,
a
it was
man
her
she
boy. It
knew?
was like
Okay.
her boyfriend.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
these are like they call him like Romeo pimps. Like this is like the dumbest. I mean, like
Mm.
honestly.
Well, no, it's really fascinating because a lot of what I cover on this podcast is a very like empowered angle of sex work, of like fully
Yeah.
opting in and like enjoying it. So I think it's really important to mention other circumstances.
Yeah, I mean, it is unfortunately like the underbelly of some sex work.
Yeah.
Is that, there is an industry, that is built off of forced coercion of
Yeah.
like.
And the lines are like not blurry there, but like it might not sound like, I think when we think of trafficking, we think of like kidnapped and put into sex work environment, and it can get really.
I mean, it's the lines are can be very blurred. I mean,
Right.
it's he loves me, like he's my boyfriend, or like you start off like you're his girlfriend,
Right.
he's your boyfriend, and then he's like,
I want you to meet my friend.
I want you to meet my friend.
Yeah.
And then it's like, then he's beating you. And then he's like forcing you to do these things. I mean, like Melissa Bartholomew grew up in a good family. She came to New York City from Buffalo to like with like dreams of like opening her own salon. And then she was introduced to this guy that, allegedly like owned a salon, but it was like a front maybe.
Yeah.
And then Megan Waterman was living in Portland, Maine, also had a child, and met again like Romeo Pimp, and who I think either had ties to obviously had ties to Long Island. I don't think he was living there, but they would go back and forth. And I think like they had done this before, but she came down to Long Island with the purposes of like, working for the weekend.
Yeah.
But I don't.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know that it was her choice. I mean, like I think that she probably would have wanted to be doing something else. I don't want to put words in her mouth, but he was definitely a situation of coercion with Melissa and Megan. With Amber and Maureen, they were both kind of working for themselves. Yeah.
Now, which one had, like, I believe a double or repeated encounter with Heuermann where there was, like, the plot, like...
Yeah, that was Amber Lynn Costello. And she
Okay.
was actually living in Babylon, which is in like a community in the South Shore of Long Island.
Okay.
Not too far from Massapequa. So basically she was working out of her house. And she lived...
Not a great idea.
Yeah. She only did in-calls.
Yeah.
And
But not great for so many men to know where you actually live.
No.
And in-call should be separate.
Yeah. And she was living with a friend. They both had drug addiction issues. And a lot of the work that she did was to feed that drug addiction.
Is that Dave Schaller?
That's Dave Schaller, who she was living with. And
important.
Yeah. And Dave Schaller was similar to Michael Pack in the way that he was kind of like security.
Yeah.
But it was his house that they were living in.
Okay.
And she would take in calls sometimes. And he would kind of act like her security. And eventually they started sort of running this scheme where she would book an in-call. The client would come to her house, and then they would start, and then like Dave Schaller would pretend to be her boyfriend and like bust in and be like, "What the fuck are you doing? Get out of here, man!" And then run the client off and then take the money. They would take the money.
That's just so dangerous. I mean, their judgment was off because they were using drugs and stuff, but like to do it at the place you reside is like,
it's super
that
dangerous.
shit will come back.
And Amber was actually again like another they're all interesting characters, people.
Yeah.
But she had been like she had been married before. Like she was like a born again Christian who had like fallen off the wagon. And it was just like she had like a whole like life before like drug addiction.
Yeah.
She had also been sexually assaulted when she was younger. So I think she was like part of like her drug addiction.
Yeah.
Was just kind of running away from those demons.
Yeah. So Heuermann visited her and they deployed this plot.
So they did that.
And then he reached back out.
The next day and was like, not cool.
The next day.
Yeah.
And then he
was like
asked to see her again or kind of said, "You owe me."
Yeah, he was like, redo.
Which is crazy because your average fucking person is going to never see either of those people again when you're ran out of a house by a man.
Yep.
But it's probably like he'd already been murdering people and he wanted like revenge and he knew he could execute on it probably.
Yep. And he probably was like, I'm thinking what had happened is that like maybe, so before we had a suspect, it was theorized that the killer was somebody that these women had some sort of relationship with. Not a deep relationship, but just like maybe there was some trust built in. Either
interesting.
Yeah, like either it was like a police officer, so it was like, oh wow, it's a cop. He's not gonna, which is laughable, but it's like he's not gonna hurt me.
They were assuming based on whatever they found.
Yeah, because
that
they
there
left,
was
because they left the house without their pocketbook, without their cell phone, like nothing.
Or like it's irregular.
It's irregular. Or maybe they had been communicating like for a while. Like there was some build up. So it didn't seem so.
But she was the only one that he had seen multiple times that we know of.
And also, but like Melissa Bartholomew there were like her cell phone records say that there had been several calls to the Manorville, like, which is also in Long Island. Or on Long Island, and like to the east. It's like sort of eastern South Shore, Long Island. But there had been several calls to that area. And like Rex Heuermann like operated all, like I think his gun club was like close to Manorville. His house lived in, he lived in Massapequa. So there were there were some calls back and forth. So even if he didn't know them or see them in person, I think there was some lead up. Maureen Brainerd Barnes, no, I don't think so. And then Megan Waterman, no, I don't think so. But in terms of like they met each other before. But so yeah, he was like the next day after he gets run out of this house, he's like, I want to redo. And she leaves to go on like an out call.
Doesn't he say he'll pay her way more or something? Or like, how does he entice her?
I
would be scared for
because I think she had already pocketed the money like the night before.
Ugh.
So I don't know. I think he was just like, I've already paid you. You didn't do anything with me.
Yeah.
Like, give me what I paid for.
Yeah.
So she leaves without anything. And Dave Schaller says, in our interview with him, this is crazy. This always gives me chills. So in our interview with him, he says that he saw and this is in 2016, or 2017, he tells us this, that he saw the truck that
he came and picked her up.
Yeah. He said he saw the truck. And he says, but I didn't see a lot of details because she kind of went around the corner, and he was like, it haunts me because he said, like, if I had just walked a little further or whatever. But we actually showed him pictures of vehicles. And mind you, in the interview, he was like, by the looks of it, in my opinion only, not sober. Yeah. And so we're showing him these pictures of different trucks because we had like persons of interest that we had sort of identified on our own and their vehicles. And we showed him this one truck that was like a landscaping-esque kind of looking truck. And he says he kind of perks up like out of his, like, it was just kind of like, he was kind of like, no. And he was like, wait a minute, what's that one? And he was like, that one kind of looks like the truck I saw that night. It had high sides. And so I was like, oh shit. Like he saw like a truck with high sides. Well, it was when Rex Heuermann was apprehended and you look at the bail application, you see that there was a witness that helped to identify him based on the truck description. And what was the truck? It was a Chevy Avalanche. And what does the Chevy Avalanche have? It's those weird fucking high sides, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, oh shit. Like there it was. I was like, it must have been Dave Schaller. Like, because we could never get a hold of him after we interviewed him in 2017. We could never get a hold of him again. But I had always had because he said he didn't remember.
Right.
So I was like, oh,
what if sparked a memory?
Yeah, I was like, what if we could like hypnotize him? I know this is so dumb, right? But I mean, it's like all these things that you kind of go through when you're like trying to like kind of tease out the details of a case. But it was through that description of the truck, identifying that Chevy Avalanche, that they were able to zero in based on the however many people, drive those Chevy Avalanches. And it was an early model. So it was like however many people drive, who, what residents in this area have a Chevy Avalanche? What residents in this area have, this X model or whatever. So then they narrow it down. And then they also have the DNA evidence. So then they sort of cross-reference it with the DNA. And then they're like, okay, now and then they find Rex Heuermann. And they're like, well, now all we have to do is just somehow get his DNA. They got his DNA and yeah, they were able to build a case against him. And that was sort of like what sealed the deal. And it was through the advent of that, like, DNA technology. I mean, it was a confluence of events because like law enforcement that I've spoken to before a suspect was named, they were always like, this case is solvable. Like, why hasn't it been solved?
Yeah.
And that kind of like dovetails into like the whole corruption of like SCPD, the old guard switching into the sort of new guard around the time that Shannon Gilbert went missing.
When it switched to the group, or I don't know how to correctly say it, the police chief, the second police chief.
Yeah.
They solved it pretty fucking quick.
Oh,
All
yeah.
it really took was somebody that gave a shit, is what it seemed
mean,
like. Like, it was fast.
Yeah. First of all, and I've said this publicly before, I'm like, Rodney Harrison is the man. I mean, he really is. He was the police commissioner
Yes.
that like really kind of lit a fire under the formed like the Gilgo Beach Task Force. And,
Also, like, hello, there is a potentially active serial killer in our community. Like,
oh.
sex work shit aside, and all, like, we have a serial killer on the loose.
Well, that's something that,
or maybe they thought it had kind of died off.
Well, so there was so when the Gilgo Four were, and we kind of touched on this earlier, but when they were discovered, there, it was like, wait, all these women had been identified, or they had been reported missing.
Right.
And the family members that came forward, they were like, yeah, like especially Melissa Bartholomew's family, they were like, nobody cared. Like she lived in the Bronx.
Mm-hmm.
They went to her Bronx precinct and it was met with like, and then it took them contacting like a family friend at like, and they were from Buffalo.
Yeah.
In Buffalo at like with the Buffalo police like force or whatever to call the precinct in the Bronx and be like, listen, like,
hey,
she's
can you
missing. Yeah, please, can you care?
Yeah.
So they had gone, and that's like tale as old as time in this case, right? So like they had gone through all of these, they had jumped through all of these hoops and still it was unsolved. Still, there was like no media coverage or very little media coverage.
Had people been theorizing a serial killer before the four were...
No.
Wow.
Not at all. Not at all. It was just these like disparate.
But if it had been like 10 young blonde college girls.
Yeah, that's what Jackie Gallucci, that reporter that I mentioned earlier, that's what she's... Oh God, you're gonna... Sorry, guys. I keep hitting the microphone. But that's what Jackie Gallucci, the reporter for the Long Island Press, said. And she's actually the one who coined the term Lost Girls because she had the front page of that paper. And it was about... She had that question. She was the original person who asked that question.
Oh, is there a serial killer?
No.
Oh,
she was like, she saw a missing persons poster for Megan Waterman.
Yeah.
And she's like, I haven't, how come this isn't bigger news? Like, she's like, and apparently there had been another, like a school teacher on Long Island that had gone missing. And it was like all over like the news. And it was like, oh my gosh, this mother, the school teacher had gone missing. And she was like, as reporters do, asking important questions, or as they should do, asking these important questions, being like, wait a minute, and noticing patterns, and being like, wait a minute, like, why when Megan Waterman goes missing, I have to find like, there's like one missing persons poster in a bodega somewhere.
Aww.
And then when this school teacher goes missing, it's all over the news. So, and that was kind of like rinse and repeat for all of the victims.
And if they had been more of like, your teachers, your
Gabby Petito's.
Totally. Like if they'd been more like that and there were a series of them, it would, the fear of a community around a potential active serial killer, that shines such a bright spotlight on the police, and like for them to figure it the fuck out. You know what I mean? But like that pressure wasn't on because it wasn't like, hey, we have a serial killer.
Well, and it was actually the mention of the phrase serial killer that brought that pressure on the police, because the media were like, ooh, serial killers.
Right.
See, there's a serial killer.
Yeah.
There's a serial killer on Long Island, but even with that spotlight, the way they were framing these women was still with stigma, using stigmatizing language.
Yes.
Instead of seeking justice, it was still focused on hookers, prostitutes, before they were even like called a woman, they were called sex workers, even if they, and that's like, they weren't even
They weren't
using
called sex workers.
They weren't even using that terminology.
Yeah.
And they were called girls, which fucking pisses me off so much in this case.
Missing women?
Yeah, I can't.
In their 20s and 30s?
I'm like, okay, first of all, because when you like call them girls, you infantilize them.
Yeah.
And then you're also like diminishing them. They're not, like it's just, all of it is just gross. It's just really gross. And so like even when they were getting that attention, it was still wrong.
And like sexualized.
And it was sexualized, and it would also blame them, like, oh, of course this happened because they were engaged in sex work. Of course, right? And then so like that's 2011. From 2011 to 2023, nothing happened with this case. It was cold as cold can be. And in that time, there were tons of conspiracy theories, tons of like online, like Reddit threads and web sleuth threads that just, going crazy, blaming people that didn't need to be blamed, dragging people out of the shadows that were gross and deviant and totally deserved to have a spotlight on them, but also weren't
serial killers.
Exactly. Right. And that was something that was kind of like, okay, this guy's gross. He's horrible. He's a bad guy, but is he a serial killer? Like that doesn't make someone a serial killer. And that's where you kind of have like James Burke, the police, scandalized police chief of Suffolk County, who...
What years was he the police chief?
So he, and again, don't come for me if I get these wrong, because I'm just kind of going off of memory here. Yeah. But that happened 2010-ish, like late 2010.
So when he came in?
When he came in, yeah, because I remember there was an investigator working, like a senior homicide detective working on Shannon Gilbert's case. I think his name was Dominic Verone. And he was old guard, right? Like he's so like veteran, like detective. And he starts working on it. And then this new police chief comes in and he basically gets fired. Like everybody, like old guard gets fired. This new guy comes in and just
you think he intentionally wanted him to stop working on?
I mean, I
Shannon
think
Gilbert's
the
case.
new guy, James Burke, that came in, he was scandalized, like from the very beginning. I mean, people had warned about.
We could do another episode on him.
I mean, yeah,
we don't have time.
Yeah, we don't have time, and I mean, he's an interesting character.
The reason why he probably didn't want a spotlight on him is because he was participating in a lot of shit and hiring sex workers.
Yeah, illicit activity. I mean, like there's a whole story about him at this like the basement of this strip club and and somewhere on Long Island called, I think it was called like Gossip or something. But I know it's like these great names. But yeah, where he...
But he didn't want the feds. Like he wanted to keep this...
Yes. So
he didn't want to be investigated.
But throughout that time, between 2011 and 2020... Well, it was before 2023. But throughout like a large chunk of that time, like when he was in power...
Yeah.
There were... there was a lot of like corruption happening behind the scenes. So I think people with their theories, they were like, oh, he doesn't want them in there because he did it, right? Well, not necessarily.
People thought he was the serial killer.
A lot of people thought that he was the serial killer. And there was this...
that would be...
And there was this...
Loaded.
This what is the name? Like a cabal of men... and like sex parties and where people...
Which were actually true though, right? Like, James Burke was...
1,000,000%. There was
had been seen at sex parties.
There was a cabal, so to speak, of powerful men engaging in like sex parties with sex workers.
Yeah.
And there were...
Also, like, what are the fucking chances?
Well, I mean, and there were like eyewitness reports that like, James Burke, the police chief, asked people like... other police officers if they knew where he could get snuff films and
oh Jesus.
Yeah. And so just like a lot of like crazy stuff, or like there were sex workers that came forward and were like, oh yeah, he choked me out while like I was
Well, I
giving
can
him.
totally see why people would think that he was the serial
Oh,
killer,
yeah,
given
yeah.
all of this stuff, though. You know what I mean?
But when you're engaged in, like, bribery,
Yeah.
and, like, other corrupt things, as well as, like, sex work or, like, cover-ups,
Right.
the last thing you fucking want are the feds coming in and
Uh-huh.
poking around, even if you
Yep.
had nothing to do with the serial killer case. You're
Right.
just like, stay
Right.
away, because the minute they come in, it's
They're
gonna
looking
be a
through your
Pandora's
shit, too. Yeah.
it's a Pandora's box.
Now I'm going to talk about this because I'm not sure if you want to go down this conspiracy path, but I did want to bring up the one mention of a woman, Alice Poe is the pseudonym, who claims that she met Rex Heuermann in 1993 at a party hosted by James Burke. And this is just like the one kind of random account, and who knows if it's true, but I do think it's important to just mention that there's like a potential sighting of the two of them together. And she mentions that it was like at a party at the Budget Inn on Montauk Highway. She claims that James was passing around a crack pipe. I don't know if we've heard other reports of that, and trying to get people to smoke. And then she later said that there was a knock at the door and a large man she believed to be Heuermann had entered.
Yeah, I don't doubt that. I mean, like, I believe women. And, if she said that happened, I believe her. And I don't doubt it. I mean, like,
Yeah.
if there was, I mean, like, how many and maybe I'm naive when I ask this question, but I'm like, how many, like, sex parties could you be having in, like,
In
one
like,
yeah,
in
in a rural, like, Long Island area?
Yeah.
I mean, it's
well,
like,
and it seems like James Burke and Heuermann were both participating in these kind of like underbelly experiences, whether that be drugs or hiring sex workers or strip clubs.
yeah, and they were living around the same area. Like, I
Totally.
think James Burke was living in Smithtown, and Heuermann was in Massapequa. So
Mhm.
I'm not like a geographer, but
Yeah.
or a cartographer, but I mean, they're pretty close.
Yeah,
So
right.
I mean, within driving distance, and they're all Smithtown's a little north,
Right.
Massapequa's a little south on Long Island, but
And like that's not to say that like they were in on this together or anything like that, but just like kind of
no.
connecting these parties
Yeah.
is very interesting.
Yeah, and it's not, I mean, and wasn't Alice, she was like 16 or something?
Yes.
Yeah, she's like super young.
Which also kind of tracks
Oh yeah,
for what
totally,
these fucking
totally
guys were up
tracks. I
to.
mean, it's disgusting. So yeah, there's a lot of theories out there, but I'm and now, like, if you just kind of want to like take it to the present, there are people now trying to link Heuermann to other missing,
Murders.
other unsolved
I would not be surprised.
murders in the area, not just on Long Island, but he had property in South Carolina,
Vegas?
in Vegas.
I've heard.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah. So it is
Fuck, man.
potentially like,
Well, and he's the type of psychopath that like once he got comfortable, I mean, he was doing this for decades. So there's a certain point where I think, especially because there was like he had like a murder doc, a kill doc of like how to get away with this, and how to get better at this.
Yeah.
So like, why would we not think that this crazy person is more and more confident in his methodology?
1,000,000%.
And why would he not pick up the pace? I mean, even in the 2007 to 10 era of like, he was just,
Yeah, 1,000,000%. He was emboldened. And also they found a copy of that book, Mindhunter. So he was like using these like FBI accounts of like other serial murders to kind of like cover his tracks or whatever.
Yes.
But I don't think he ever anticipated like
I don't think getting caught.
Yeah, getting caught, like DNA. I mean, because if you think about it, like if he had been operating since potentially the early 80s, because there was another victim named not of his, but like another missing woman or victim named Tina Foglia. I don't know a lot about her, but she went missing around the same area in 1982. And there's a lot of talk that she could be related. So I don't know. I mean, if he had been killing since potentially the early 80s, proven killing from like the early 90s at least.
Right.
There's like, he was emboldened and he wasn't thinking about the advent of like technology in solving cases.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think anybody could have really imagined that
No.
that would happen. So, like,
Yeah.
you know, yeah.
Yeah, I have a feeling there could be a whole lot more. And then he was recently just charged with 3 additional
Yeah. So,
beyond the 4.
yeah. So it was Maureen, and then it was Valerie Mack, Jessica Taylor, and then Sandra Castilla.
And he was finding most of these sex workers on Craigslist, right? Is that
Yeah, a lot of these women were advertising on a
Back
site,
pages?
Backpage, which I'm like,
long time ago? But yeah, I
girl,
heard about it.
talk about like old. I mean, that's like
Yeah.
I mean, even in 2016 when I first saw it, I was like, Backpage, like what is
I wonder
this?
I
It's
wonder
like
if
old
there was
school
any
internet.
standard for screening at that time. Like, have they been able to? Were any of maybe we're not there yet, but like, have any of these women's belongings been recovered? I don't know. Did he keep the belongings?
I mean, there was
I
some.
guess.
Well, when he was arrested, they turned his house upside down.
Yeah,
And they were taking.
we don't necessarily know. All
They
of
were
that
taking
yet.
everything out of that dungeon space.
He's the type of fucking person that would keep
1,000,000%.
trophies.
That's what I was saying. That's why I mentioned that he was a hunter earlier, because
yeah.
he likes that,
Yeah.
that trophy, that like
Mhm.
kill, right?
Mhm.
And the tracking and the like all of that.
Yeah, I'm just curious if he kept any phones or anything. Like,
Oh,
I wonder.
He did. Absolutely. I
Oh.
mean, like he turned on
He would call the families.
yeah, Melissa
Fucking
I mean,
psychopath.
Melissa Bartholomew, he killed he called her little sister and taunted her. Like
Yeah.
like your sister's a whore. I found her in a Queen's whorehouse. This is what she did when I murdered her. Yeah, like all this stuff to a 15-year-old, to
Yeah.
her little sister,
Yeah.
who they were very close. So talk about trauma. I mean, like he's disgusting
Yeah.
and sick, and that, I mean, she's a woman now with children of her own, but like that little girl, like she had to she has to live the rest of her life
Yeah.
with his voice in her head,
Mhm.
and like she yeah. He's gross, but yeah, he would keep their cell phones and like turn them on, and there are actually cell phone pings. So that was like another
wow.
another big part of like solving this case was like
Mhm.
the cell phone triangulation of like and cell tower pings, because he would
Right.
turn them on and then turn them off, right? So they would ping. And that's another thing,
Jesus.
like any serial killers listening to this podcast right now.
God.
Like, don't.
Well, if you didn't learn anything from Serial, like one of the big first podcasts,
Yeah.
that whole damn season is about cell phone towers.
Yeah.
If you haven't learned, but we do have to wrap up, unfortunately. I really did want to go quickly back to James Burke. He was fired because and arrested.
Yeah. So he actually, so his car got broken into.
Oh.
Like I can't even remember the dates. It was like 2012 or something, 2013. His car got broken into by this man named Christopher Loeb. And yeah, Loeb was arrested. Inside the bag that Loeb had stolen, there was allegedly child sexual abuse material.
Yeah.
I think like weapons, like
illegal shit.
Yeah.
For for everyone, but
yes,
police chief.
I mean, and this is like, yeah. So
the thief saw it and
yeah, and like watched it and said it was like sick, right? And so he was brought in. Christopher Loeb was brought in.
Mhm.
And he was detained. When James Burke found out that it was his car, his stuff, and Christopher Loeb stole this particular bag full of stuff.
Yes.
He came in and just went crazy on Loeb. Loeb
beat him up?
Loeb was chained to the floor. He threatened to give him a hot shot of heroin to like kill him. Loeb was like, I know what was in that bag, you sick fuck, like all this stuff. He beat Loeb while chained to the floor. So yeah, he went away.
Okay.
Yeah, James Burke went away for
At least we live in an era where that'll make you lose your job. Good God.
I mean, who knows anymore? But
Right.
But he went away for civil rights violations.
Okay.
And then the the district attorney Thomas Spoda, also went away, which was like his mentor who put him in power.
Yes.
He went away.
There's more. Go if you guys
Yeah.
have the time and are intrigued by this case, go down the rabbit hole of is there a whole LISK episode about James Burke, I think?
Yeah, it was actually going to be our season 2.
All about him? Or
yeah,
about
I mean,
them?
yeah. And I mean, there was a season 2 about this. But
go down the James Burke rabbit hole and Shannon Gilbert for sure.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I know we could go for another hour. I don't feel ready to wrap up. But I think we should, maybe put a little bow on it with like, I think that this case is so fucking important to look at those 15 years that went by and the neglect of this case because of what these women did. And yeah, I mean, you previously mentioned Gabby Petito and just like everyone's obsession and infatuation with certain types of cases. And some of these cases get solved pretty fucking fast. And to be able to see that this one actually was solved so quickly when there was a team on it is crazy.
Yeah, I think cases like this really hold a mirror up to our society, and what it reflects back are our values.
Right.
But yeah, violence persists where stigma and poverty and indifference exist. So I'll just leave it there.
Well said. Thank you so much. Thanks for making the trip.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for tuning in today. Don't forget to follow us on Spotify, Apple, and or YouTube, as well as on Instagram at Segs Talk Radio. That's Segs, SEGGS. And before you go, head over to testy.co to join the waitlist for our 2026 launch. We are reinventing same-day walk-in STI testing nationwide.